Two. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you may be in the world. We bring you greetings from Conversations in the Nick of Time. I am your host, Nikki Roach, and I am absolutely over the top excited. I know. I probably say that every week, but I am. There's so many amazing people that are out here in the world doing amazing things, and they are truly living out one of my models that you hear me say, and I will say to the day that I transition out of this world, which is live out success as you define it. And far too many of us have not taken the time to be intentional about defining. Well, my guest today has definitely laid out the platform for those of you who are still trying to figure out what that means and what it looks like. Guess what? We've got some conversation in the nick of time for you. Want to welcome each of you to the platform from your respective places. And those who are new, understand that this platform is your virtual classroom to everything leadership, leadership excellence, leadership accidents, and leadership equity. And we try to do our best to give you resources to put in your hands, to invoke and stir up emotions to cause you to act, but also to give you some exposure to some new ways of thinking and approaching things. So all of that happens here on this platform. And you will find out from today's guests, those of us who are 40 and over, go and grab yourself a pen and a piece of paper. Because you're in for a treat. I am very excited about our guest today, Miss Quin Brewington out of Florida. And she has had an opportunity to share this space. I've had the pleasure, I should say, of sharing this space and platform with her. It's been over a year. Yes. Because I ended up stumbling upon her one day, just doing what I normally don't do, which is scroll through Instagram. And I stumbled upon some work she was doing that was very near and dear to my heart and very in alignment with things that we talk about on this platform. So I want to introduce to some and present to others Miss Quin Brewington out of Florida. She is the founder of SisterLadyGirl. Yes, SisterLadyGirl. Quin Brewington she's a Gen X woman. She is a Gen X woman who is developing personal strategies designed to help women transition to midlife with more peace and ease. And I'm going to say women, but she thinks it's women, but we say SisterLadyGirl, but the brothers, grab your pens too. But she helps them to make transitions with peace and ease, because as we know, and I am in this space as well, to where you feel like you're the only. And in this space, you literally realize you're not the only. She immersed herself in midlife reinvention strategies for more than 5 years. First as a student, when she returned to school to earn her master's degree at the age of 51. And you all know I'm an advocate for that. And more recently as an educator who has touched the lives of hundreds of women between the ages of 40 and 65 years of age. She's a wife, a mom of 2 daughters, one of whom has Down syndrome and autism. The other was called to become a therapist who now helps children with her who are like her sister live more independently. Recently, Ms. Quin was featured on WFLA, Florida NBC affiliate, highlighting her work as a midlife mentor, giving instruction and insight and lived experiences in regards to reinventing yourself after 40. Quin Brewington, welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much. I am fabulous. How are you, Miss Nikki?
Good. It is just amazing to have you back this way. As I mentioned, I stumbled upon you and we met, we chatted, and it was as if we knew each other for years. And you were launching Second Act Summit in Florida. And it was your first time and you were like, I don't know all what I'm doing, but we're just going to trust God and just going to put it on out there.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
How have you been?
Oh, yeah, I've been good. It has been a wild, wonderful ride. Let me tell you, when we met, like you said, it was on the internet and it was prior to my first event, which was all virtual at that time because I think we were still kind of in
Yeah.
the midst of COVID, kind of coming out of it. But just to stay safe, we wanted to have the event all virtual. And so this past year, we did the event in person as well as virtual. And it was just fantastic. It was just fantastic. So now I can officially say that I have an annual event called the Second Act Summit. So I'm so super excited about that. I'm over the
I
moon.
am, yeah, I'm looking forward to 23, where things will be a little more at, hopefully, things will be a little more at ease and I can travel down to those parts of the world and come and hang out a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Would love to
Yeah.
have you.
So just let's circle back to Quin and Quin going through the transition, wife, mom, of two beautiful women, and one needing special attention and care.
Yes.
And while you're doing things for Quin, things for her hubby, things as a mom. You
It
have
all.
this idea. You have this idea, and working and
Mhm.
working. So you're dual rolling. You come up with this idea of, I'm going to start an organization that's catering to a second act. Walk us through that process.
Well, it really started with me feeling just not happy, not depressed, just kind of like I was just getting up and existing every day. And at the time, I didn't know what that was. But through research, I learned that there are lots of women. In the millions, as a matter of fact, who are between the ages of 40 and 65 who go through this on a daily basis. And so I was at this point in my life where I was doing a job that, you know, I didn't really understand. Let's be honest. At the time that I graduated from college, the internet was barely a thing. And my job was centered around digital marketing. And I found myself going out at night trying to do research. And it was becoming just it wasn't helping me in terms of my work life balance and everything that I had going on at home. And I just started becoming really bitter about that because here I was in the prime of my life and I just didn't feel like I could get things together. I was still trying to be a mom who was very much involved in my daughter's life at the time that I'm watching my friends launch all of their children into adulthood. Here I am. I'm still, basically in elementary school, taking my youngest to school and doing all the things that come with being a mother to a special needs child. Now, don't get me wrong, I would not change a thing about my life, but at the time, it was a lot. And so I figured if I was going through this, other people had to be going through it as well. And I needed to do something to kind of propel myself into another state of being because the way that I was thinking, the way that I was feeling, it was impacting my life. It was impacting those around me. It was impacting my relationships, not in a good way. And I wanted that to change. And so I figured out I need to do something in order to make that change. Nobody's going to do it for me. So I need to figure out how to do that. And that's the space that I was in at the time.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and transparent, and trusting this platform with that part of the story.
Absolutely.
And it is just, I'm sitting here, like, okay, blink, blink, blink. Hold back the tears because we do go through that. And while you have a unique space that you serve your family in, Many of us, like for me, I have not birthed children, but I'm in that sandwich generation where I am caring for aging parents, and then also having a family and friends and career. But then, as you mentioned, we have this dual thing going on where we're trying to launch certain things, and that takes work because you can launch it, but you need to nurture it and grow it and feed it, and if you're wanting to sustain it, to be around and sustain it. So you have all of that going on, and you realize that, things that I'm doing and how I'm showing up is not benefiting myself nor any of these relationships around me. But that takes such a level of honesty
It
and
does.
self-talk that I'm not always sure we're ready to have. What do you think about that?
I think you're absolutely right. And I think that when we come to these pivots in our life, in order to make one successfully, you have to be really honest with yourself. You have to sit down and ask yourself some really honest questions, and you have to be willing to answer them honestly too. This is your life. You know, if you're not going to honestly answer these questions, you're basically lying to yourself, and you're saying, okay, I'm just going to sit here and stew for the rest of my life. And I didn't want to do that. So, yes, it was very vulnerable, because when we make a pivot to do something new, to change our lives, change in and of itself is a scary thing. But when we pivot to do something new, we go into a new direction, right? And when you go into a new direction, that means that the direction that you are going in was potentially wrong. And so that is the first thing that you have to admit to yourself, that, maybe I was wrong. And a lot of people
That's hard.
don't want to do that. And it's very difficult to sit here and admit that you may have been wrong, because as women, society tells us that we should do certain things, right? We should be a nurturer, we should be a provider, we should have all the answers for all of the people in our lives that depend on us. And so any kind of crack in that surface, we feel some form of embarrassment, some level of, maybe I'm not doing this right. And we're embarrassed to show that side of us. But in order to get to that next level, you're going to have to be vulnerable.
I love that you mentioned the fact about maybe I was wrong, because again, that's back to that honest, being true to self.
Mhm.
But what we end up doing is learning how to live in the dysfunction and the facade. So we become experts at that. We become geniuses. Like we master that part of our lives instead of the part that really is, introspective, going inside to say, wait a minute, something's off. But then what do you say about this other side, the flip side, where some will say, well, that's awful selfish, because you've made these decisions and you have now you need to care for your child. You need to care, you're now a wife. These are the roles that we're supposed to fulfill, as you were leaning into earlier. But yeah, that's selfish. What do
Yeah.
you what do you say?
Yeah. I mean, I tell the women in my community all the time, and it's something that I teach about a lot as well, that it's time to put yourself first. It really is. This is a great opportunity. This is a great time. We've spent the majority of our lives doing for others, being there for others. And we do that so much that we forget who we are. And that's where the lie comes in,
Yeah.
right? That's where the guilt comes in, because we have listened so much to what society says, to what they tell us who we should be, that we have forgotten who we are.
Yeah.
And so I tell people all the time, you have to put yourself first. Again, you have to be honest about what you really want out of this life. And it doesn't matter what other people say, it's what's going to work for you going forward. And that is not selfish, that is essential.
And yes, so I've got a couple thoughts in my head here. I always say you can't give what you don't have.
Exactly.
And other people will say you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yep.
And so while you do hear the whispers of who do you think you are to even attempt to do XYZ, but then also, are you not forgetting that you have to be there for so and so and so and so? So you have all that going on. But in one of your interviews, I think it's the one with WFLA, you talked about at some point not being fulfilled as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that landed heavy for me because, not in a bad way, but because if you can't first show up, how is it that you're going to serve?
Exactly, exactly. I use the analogy all the time. Anybody who has taken a flight knows this as well. When they go through the safety precautions and they tell you if something, God forbid, were to happen mid-flight, take care of yourself first by putting that oxygen mask on, because you're not going to be able to help anyone if you haven't taken care of yourself. And so whenever I use that analogy, you can see the light bulbs come on with people. They're like, that makes so much sense. And it's not being selfish for me to put that mask on and help someone else. So why is it selfish for me to take a step back, put my, you know, um, life mask on, or whatever you call those things in your real life, whatever that may be, is self-care. It's going back to school. In my case, it's not for everybody, but in my case, that mask was going back to school and getting the education that I needed so that I could have the knowledge that I have today to help other women step through this process. So that's how I look at it, and that's how I teach it.
That is wonderful. And so then you navigate this. And that's one thing that I love about your journey, is that no, this was lived, this is a lived experience
Yes.
that you've walked through and said, whoa, I think there's some work that could be done here. First with myself. And then as you begin, because I do believe in the law of attraction.
Absolutely.
Once you begin to position yourself, and I don't mean yes, physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, position yourself and open yourself up to what it is that you're desiring. I'm a person of faith and prayer. So, plugging into that definitely and causing that to be the foundation, but centering and positioning yourself, things begin to happen. And I know we say that, like I have goosebumps even saying it, because sometimes, we don't know where to start. We don't know what it is that, or who it is we should be talking to or working with, but it's about just positioning. And then it's amazing how people, places, resources, things will just come and you're like, oh my gosh, like how is this happening? And it becomes this outer body experience somewhat. What has the journey been for you in regards to, because you were working a 9 to 5, and then
Still do.
and thanks for that honesty, but you shift to being an individual, like, let me launch this. What were some things that what was that process like for you?
So I always like to say that my steps were ordered,
Okay.
right? I may not always have understood why a certain thing was happening, but as I look back over how things have transpired for me, the people that have come into my life, the lessons that I have learned, everything has been in order for the next thing. And like you said, when you get ready to pivot, because that was something that I never really talked about early on, but now that I have stepped through those ordered, steps, and I've gone through, I now know that in order to go from where you are to where you want to be, you have to pivot. You have to turn. You have to change. You can't be the same old person and get something new.
But that's so hard. That is so hard.
It is very hard. It is very hard. And I think the hardest thing is the mindset. And changing your mindset and telling yourself that, yes, I do deserve this. Yes, I can do this. No, I'm not too old for that. It's mindset. It's that inner work that we struggle with. And I'm not going to even say we, I'm going to say me. It was the inner work that I struggled with the most. And once I figured out that I was standing in my own way, well, let me tell you.
Yes.
The whole entire world opened up for me when I knew that if I would get out of my own way.
Yeah. And not just one time.
Right. Exactly.
This is constant quieting those whispers, quieting your own spirit. You could be busy doing things and working, but your spirit's not at rest, know, or you can. So a lot of times we think, oh, let me go fix this, and then get in position to do what it is that I'm trying to do. No, it's ongoing.
It really is. And I say all the time that pivoting is about positioning. Is about getting ready for that next thing. You may not know what that next thing is, but if you're positioned, then you can recognize when an opportunity, when a possibility presents itself, because you've already positioned yourself. You've already brought the people into your world who can supply you with the knowledge that you need to know. Nobody does this alone. Right? Nobody gets through this life alone. Nobody has any sort of success on their own. There's always somebody who knows more than you, who may be willing to share it with you. And your assignment, if you choose to take it, is to go out and find those people.
Yeah.
And so that is what I have been doing. And I love to find those people and connect those people with the conference that I am have built so far. All of the connections that these women are making with each other. There are women in this community who are starting businesses with each other. They're buying from each other because we're all out here saying to ourselves, my life, when my race has been run and I'm done, I want my life to have been about something. And that's what this movement is all about, is making you think about, you have a lot of life left, because society will tell you after 40 years old, you might as well hang it up. You're not going to get any opportunities at work. You're not going to do well. Instead of looking at it from that perspective and saying, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get any opportunities, you flip it around. It's about mindset and saying, what opportunities do exist for me now? Because I'm not over here anymore. I may still be in this position, but I'm no longer in a point where I'm trying to climb that corporate ladder, because I know my assignment is different. And that's okay. That's okay. So
I know. Right. And then you bring up a great point in regards to going out to seek out what those opportunities may be, but like in your case, create it, because you've lived it. You're now able to create a platform that supports others to do just that. And then also understanding that it doesn't have to be or look like what we've seen in past. So what it is that you see for yourself moving forward could be something very different than what we've even personally experienced. No different than right now. So we're in that 40s bucket. And when we're in that 50, 50, now you got a whole nother group. So when you are in that 40s and that 50s, it's just, I know for me, transitioning into 40s, at first it was just nervousness. You go through this, what have I done with my life? Oh my God, I should be further, faster. You go through all of this, and then catch your breath. And it's like, all of a sudden, it's like, these are the best years of my life, because now I have a little knowledge, I have a little experience that I can actually apply. And then I arrived to the place where, yes, those self-talks, some talks with other people, professional and just, by way of friend or family connect, And then you realize I get to choose. All of a sudden, this light bulb goes off. And so that's my new word, my new motto, I choose.
Yes.
Um, and with that, in choosing, I realized like, if I want to work a 9 to 5 that complements the other work that I do, that's fine. You don't have to choose if you don't want to do one or the other, or to be a boss, I have to only do this. No, your path, your journey, your outcomes should look different. But in our conversation, we should be iron sharpening iron.
Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of what I've gone through in the last 5 years is unlearning what I've learned, because my generation, and particularly, African Americans in my generation, we were taught to go to school. That's not a bad thing, because our parents wanted us to do better than them. And then, of course, I want my children to do better than me. So it makes sense. But what we don't know is, after school is done, after you've raised your kids, after you've gotten to a certain area of your career, what happens? Nobody tells us what happens after that. The story just kind of runs out. And I've always thought that was interesting, because if you read any book, if you watch any movie, the best, juiciest part is in the middle. And that's exactly where we are in terms of our age. We are middle age, and these are the juiciest years of our lives.
I love that.
Why are we sitting here lamenting over things that at the end of the day won't even matter? Nobody will even remember. And this is the kind of mindset that I try to teach women to get themselves into. It's not about other people. It's about you and what you want to do.
Yeah. And I know you have these 4 C's that you have kind of began to establish your foundation on, strengthening your foundation on. And then also I want to just touch base with the Second Act Summit, and what that is, what we can expect for the year coming up. But the 4 C's, walk us through that. I know there's curriculum, community, connection, and conversation. And all of these bring me chills, because it's like, yes, 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 and yes. but also what also excites me is the fact that I'm watching, even though, we met virtually, we've only had conversations virtually, only a few of them, but I get a chance to see you evolve in how you just started.
Right.
But I can see the development of who you are and what you provide, and this organization blossoming. And it's amazing. I mean, you did it. You just did it.
I just did it. And, like I said, nobody does it alone. And I think that's where the C's started coming to me. Everything has been ordered, right? So community is where I started, because I needed one around me. I didn't have a strong success network around me. And I honestly didn't even know truly what success looked like. I knew what success for society for someone like me looked like, but did it truly fit me? Did it align with my life? Did it make me happy? And when I came to the conclusion that it didn't, then that's when things started to change for me. So I started seeking out a community of people who could help me. And so when I talk about success networks, it's not necessarily people, although people will slide into those slots, but these are kind of what I call like personas, right? So your success network should be made up of mentors, people who you can look to for advice and are willing to give you advice. Then there are models who are in this success network. And these are just people that you may never even know, but you look at and you go, man, he or she is doing some amazing things and it looks good to me. And so how can I model what I'm doing after what they are doing. And then there's your accountability partner or your coach, whatever way you choose to look at it. But this is a person who, they're not going to be your friend, right? You have to go in here knowing that this person is not going to be your friend. They are going to hold you accountable to the things that you say that you want to do. And then there's your cheerleader. I like to say that it's that, when you're out and you're looking all good, you may be out with your husband or something on date night, and you walk into the bathroom and you see that drunk girl at the bar, and she's like, girl, you look so good. Oh my God, girl, look at you. Your hair is fly, your makeup is fly. That's a cheerleader. She just loves everything about you, and she is rooting for you. She may not even know you, but she's just rooting for your success. That's it. And then finally, as part of that success network, you have what I call a supporter. And these are people who are going to ride or die for you. Either they're going to, pay for your services, or they're going to partner with you on certain things, but they are going to be those people that, I can show you better than I can tell you.
Yes.
So that's what I think about my community. And then the community that I'm building with the Second Act Summit Society, of bringing women together so that they can find their people and find their success network within this group. So that's the first C. And then the next C would be, from community, you're making connections, like I said, with all of these different personas, with these different people. You're getting an opportunity to kind of tell people who you are in a very protected space, because at this point in time, some of us are still a little bit nervous about showing the world who we are and who we want to be. So I wanted to create a space where you could connect with other women who are on the same journey as you, and will help you along the way with no judgment. So I think that's what we're building there. And then from there, I teach you how to do it with curriculum. We are building a database of online courses that women can take. Wow. I do trainings. I have one today, actually, that I'll be doing inside the community. And it's free to just come on in and be a part of it. And also tell me what you need. I haven't been through everything. I'm still evolving. And so I feel like we're all learning together. I always feel like you should be a rookie at something. No matter how old you are, you should always be willing to learn, always be willing to absorb new information, have new experiences. No matter what the curriculum means to you, you should always be willing to learn more. And then finally, conversations and having chats, honest, open chats about what we need, where we're going, who we want to be when we grow up. Have you ever noticed that when you talk to a 5 or 6 year old, that they can tell you right off the bat what they want to be when they grow up?
And no shame.
No shame, no judgment. They think they can do anything in the world. And that's what I endeavor to be in this second part of my life. I endeavor to be the type of woman who doesn't see obstacles. I want to be able to jump those hurdles, and I want to be able to bring my sisters with me as we go across the finish line. So that is the journey that we're on, that I'm on. And it has been just a true blessing so far.
That is, you said so much, and then I'm over here doodling and writing down some notes here and there. And I love this success network and how there are key individuals. So there's some intentionality, but it allows me as an individual, like, you're going to be serious about this, because you cannot just say, I'm going to do something. And some of us, have that inner motivation to push through in certain areas, maybe that others have a little more challenge with. However, I do believe that all of these individuals, whether male or female, because I'm a big advocate for having at least 3 mentors at the same time. They don't have to necessarily know each other, but it allows you to create a path and a voice for yourself, and not just have this one where you are somewhat mirroring or mimicking. So,
Right.
you know, someone of same sex, someone of different race, someone of the different nationality or culture, because you can ask the same question. I mean, this has proven true for me for many years. The same question of each of them, and they bring such a different perspective, which allows me to then form my own thoughts regarding it, but yet exposed to so many different, these three different ways of possibility. But the one that stands out that I had during my real talk with self during our quiet time, meaning COVID, which allowed a number of us to really sit back and assess and do those things you were talking to earlier about being honest and having conversations and making decisions, is this accountability partner. That's where I found in my real talk with self was the fact that I could be further. And it's not that I'm in a race to get anywhere, but at the same time, as you said, I suffer with the same thing. It was me that was in the way. God had already opened the doors, sent people, they were waiting on me. And it's like, oh, I would get to it. And it's just because of fear. Or who am I to think, self-doubt? Who am I to think that you can pull this off?
Right.
Who are you to think that you can do something different when I always use the analogy of the fragrances. When you walk into your favorite department store, you are overwhelmed by fragrance. I mean, it can knock you out if you walk in at the wrong time, because everybody's been, I said, however, but when people come in, they're either open to seeing what's new, or they're going in because they know what works for them. And they're going straight to what they're intentional about their selection. It's the same thing. Like, there can be 1,000 of us doing second act summits, but it's none will be the same. None will have the same ingredients. None will have the same structure. And that scent won't work for everybody.
Right.
But it's needed. It can complement the whole. And so, but yet this accountability partner, being able to say, no, you need to go ahead and be on the shelf, meaning of fragrances. You need to not just put that away. We need you to be added, because this scent is just there's something different to this. And then when it lands on our skin, right, it is a different chemistry. So it may land different for me than it does for the next person.
Right.
But having someone there to kind of that nudge, it makes a difference. And we feel like, oh no, I got it, I'll do it. No, even if it's not someone that you're like paying to go see every Wednesday for the next 6 months, but having someone, I've learned to just say, hey, Quin, guess what? I had this idea.
You got it.
Putting it in the universe, putting it in the atmosphere.
You got it. And that is the most important piece, is you have to voice it. And I tell the women in my community all the time, oh my gosh, you just hit on such a key component. I adopted this new mantra at the beginning of 2022. And that mantra is, a closed mouth does not get fed. You have to tell people what you want. You can sit every morning and talk to God and say, here's what I want. Here's what I want. Reveal it to me. But unless you voice it, how will you ever know when it arrives? Yeah. You have to know what you're looking for in order to get it. And so you have to be an advocate for yourself. You have to ask for what you want. You have to be able to put those voices aside and quiet all of that doubt that's in your mind and put yourself first, because this truly is your time to do something unique, to do something different. for your life, if that's truly what you want to do. And being able to voice that and being able to find people who are going to help you along, who are going to pull you or either propel you in the direction that you need to go, that is gold. And a lot of people think that it's this huge, expansive thing. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They think that their movements are supposed to be giant.
Yeah.
And it is not the case at all. You don't have to do something so expansive that the world gets shook. Again, it's not about the world, it's about you. And I tell this story all the time about when I was younger and I wanted to make the cheerleading squad, right? And I knew at the time that the requirements were you had to tumble, you had to be able to lift other girls, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff. You have to be really strong. And so I knew that I wasn't. And so at night, every night before I went to bed, I would do one push-up to get my upper body strength up.
Yeah.
And before tryouts happened, I could do 50 push-ups consecutively. But it started with one. It started with one per night. And I didn't push myself. I didn't do anything expansive. I didn't try to go for the whole 50 in that first night, because when you try to hit that big goal at the first shot and you don't make it, what does it do? It discourages you.
Yeah.
It discourages you from trying. And I didn't want to do that. Even back then, now, like I said, that was over 40 years ago. And I still think about how ordered that was and how it shows up in my life today. So that's why I say that, everything that you're doing, every hardship that you're going through, every person that you meet, an accountability partner could be someone who just, if you voice that you want to lose a couple of pounds, that accountability partner can be the person who walks by you and goes, "You sure you want to eat that candy bar?" And it's not shaming you, it's holding you accountable for what you said you wanted to accomplish.
Right.
Now, if this person doesn't know you and you feel like you've gained a lot of weight and they come up to you and they say, "Oh my gosh, girl, you look so big today." Well, that's not an accountability partner, that's a hater.
Yeah.
So that's a person that you need to vanquish from your orb. But if you have voiced to this person that I need to do this, don't hate on that person for holding you accountable. And that's where we kind of like get a little twisted here. They're not your friend.
Yeah.
They're holding you accountable.
Right.
So take that.
Yeah.
Take that and run with it.
Yeah.
It's for your good.
I love this cheerleader and the tryout and the lesson, the underlying lesson of that. On last week's on Wednesdays, I've gotten back to posting some motivation Wednesday wisdom. And what's so interesting, the one from last week by Naeem Calloway, it says, sometimes the smallest step in the right direction ends up being the biggest step of your life. Tiptoe if you must, but take the step. And I love the tiptoe because it's just like you said, just go with what you can do. And we do get caught up in the fact that we need, I know, even, let me say, not we, I'm gonna do the you, me. It's like I can see the whole picture and I'm a visionary. So I can see where we are. I see where we're gonna end and what the end could possibly look like. Not it exactly, but there's an idea, there's a concept. And sometimes you can get so caught or attached to that, caught up in or attached to that it is overwhelming. But think about all the things, like you mentioned the cheerleader. I think about some of the things that I'm doing now. I mean, you can pick something, anything from, this platform, or to learning how to write in cursive, to anything you can think of. Cooking that mac and cheese, it didn't work out at first. Right. It took practice, it took consistency, it took commitment, it took all of these different things to get to the point to where you say, okay, I'm kind of good at that. But it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. Perfection, working towards perfection, meaning maturity, which progresses and we understand those things are always evolving and blooming and blossoming, doesn't mean that you have to stop because it's not there initially. You're working towards it. Mm-hmm. And I love when you say like those things that you put out there, that other things will come to complement that, and individuals who will even be skilled in certain areas that will help you develop in those spaces.
And will be happy to help you develop in those spaces because they recognize what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go, if you're truly being authentic about where you want to go. I love that you mentioned that, you had a vision for your future, because that is something that a lot of us, when we come to this midpoint in our lives, our vision kind of dries up, because we spent so much time trying to launch other people into what they're going to do. Particularly, if you have children, you're trying to launch them into their vision, trying to make sure that, they're good, making sure your parents are good, making sure everybody around you is good, but you're not making sure that you're good, which is very strange to me. And so when you have this vision for your life and what you're going to be in the next 20, 30 years, I like to call that my ideal future self, my IFS. Who is she? What does she look like? And
actually put it in front of you. Like there are certain things, like I have Post-its, I have a place where I can go to be encouraged. There's a place where I can say, like, this is my aspirations. Like, what am I doing to work towards that? Tiptoeing, if I must. One push-up at a time.
Yeah.
But it, just like you said, voice it. It's the same thing with showing up. I know I was even challenged by my male mentor to even interview. One of the projects he provided me was to apply for a job that would be next for me. Just apply. I wasn't looking for a job. Yeah. So it was like, because it'll allow you to get exposed to the experience. Once you have the experience, you can't take it back.
Yes. And it takes the scary away.
Yes, but the whole goal was, we're not trying to get a job, try to get the interview. Yes. You need to know the process of what next would look like.
The ordered steps.
Yes. And then it was, who's your boss's friends? Or who are the people that are doing and rocking it out in the space that you see yourself in next? How then do you put yourself in the way of them?
Yes.
Even if, and it was so funny because it was like, and this was pre-COVID, when you could go to receptions, and you know how they have these award dinners, but they have a reception in the lobby first. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like, find your local newspaper, go through the paper, or your organizations, go on their websites and figure out when they're having their award ceremony, and just show up for the reception and leave after the reception, just so that you can network, because you need FaceTime in those spaces. I'm like, what? But
in most cases, that stuff is absolutely free. Or you can get somebody to pay for it for you.
But it's a strategy. And then also that insight came from this success network you mentioned, because that falls into a model, that falls into the mentor, that falls into a supporter or a supporter that you may meet. There could be some cheerleaders there that you don't even know you need to know. And then you could stumble into a possible form of accountability partner / coach. So I love that. I'm definitely going to be sharing, but of course, giving you that credit for that. But it makes so much sense to position yourself. I mean, for real, positioning yourself is where you get this underlying, where people can undergird you and be that wind beneath your wings in regards to getting you positioned. Because some people say, you've been talking about positioning and pivoting and all this. It's through this success network that you can fill in those blanks and those gaps that you may not be familiar with. So it all goes hand in hand.
It really does. And you have to do it for yourself. Like I said before, nobody's going to take you by the hand and lead you to it. You have to determine, what is it? You have to visualize this ideal future version of yourself, and how do I work her out? You have to write down, I tell people, you have to get granular with it.
Yeah.
Your ideal future person isn't just this person who shows up to events and your makeup's perfect and your clothing is perfect and everything. No, what is she feeling when she steps into that door? Who is she trying to talk to? What kind of conversations does she want to have? There are so many questions that you should have, that you should be answering. In part of my training, I'm going to be launching a new training, shameless plug. I'm going to be launching a new training in the fall. And part of that training, you have to write down 100 questions. 100 questions that's going to lead you to your future.
So what's crazy? I have that complete. Something very similar, and I will go ahead and share the title, or part of it, because I did a speech or a keynote for the National 100 Black Women Coalition of 100 Black Women here at the St. Louis chapter, and that keynote is the opening to the book, and the book is questions on how to see yourself, and but it's really my journey, like how I saw myself after having to be still.
Nice.
Yet I thought I had what I thought I wanted.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So tell us about this second summit in our last moments.
So the Second Act Summit is going to happen again in April 2023.
Okay. I'm there.
I would love for you to be there. I would love that. Working on it now, working on the details, working on getting our lineup together. But really, over the last couple of years, one of the things that I found with the women in our community this past, let me step back for a second. The first event was just an introduction of the Second Act Summit. Here it is. Here's what we're trying to accomplish for women over 40 who want to make the next phase of their life the best phase of their life. So then year number 2 was focused on the road to reinvention. You know, how do you reinvent yourself? What questions do you need to be asking yourself? So over the course of time, I found that, these women who want to, who are in the process of rethinking, relaunching, and reinventing their lives in this period, they also want to know that, okay, once I have determined, what I want to do, and I'm finding that 8 times out of 10, it's something that has to do with, either launching some sort of side hustle or, becoming an entrepreneur. So they have these ideas of, becoming, an independent woman in the future. I hear independence when people talk about things like that. So part of becoming an independent woman is, just like you were talking about before, how are you telling people about the new you? Because in your other life, people know you as Quin, the corporate communicator. But in my new life, I want to be known as Quin, the connection woman, Quin who starts conversations with women, Quin who offers this amazing curriculum, Quin who brings communities together. So how do I get people to start recognizing me as that person? So this is the next step for women, and really teaching them how to basically market themselves.
Yeah.
And so that is what the next focus is going to be for us in the Second Act Summit, is really teaching you how to, raise yourself to a higher level, how to level up in every area, how to not be scared, how to beat back that fear. This is going to be our focus, because I am a believer in inspiration is great. I love it. I love a good quote. I love a good quote.
Yeah, it's a place for it.
Tell me how.
Yeah.
Don't just tell me about, how you felt or how you whatever. Tell me how. Show me. give me examples of women who have done this before. And so this has been something that I've been keenly focused on as we've continued to develop the Second Act Summit. And don't you just love how I say we? Because it's just me. But
hey, but
I'm
you
speaking it into existence. It's gonna be a we.
my words, you took the words right out of my mouth. Hey, that's your future self, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It starts with
She is.
we said voice it. We said
Yes.
voice it. So
Yes.
you have the platform to communicate one message to individuals who are entering or who are in this space and trying to navigate it. What one message would you share with them that would be advice in the nick of time?
I would go back to say that this is your time to put yourself first.
Okay.
It is not selfish. It is essential if you want to be happy, whatever your happiness looks like in the second chapter of your life, because it's different for everyone, right? But again, it's all about you. And so you've got to be in a space where you're willing to put aside everything that you know and unlearn everything that you've learned and start down a new path. And that new path starts with doing something that women in their 40s and 50s have oftentimes been reticent to do. And that is to put yourself first, to focus on you, to launch yourself,
Yeah.
to rethink about your future, and just get a whole reset, because the second act and the second half of your life is going to be amazing. You just have to get yourself in the position to make sure it happens.
Wow, this has been absolutely amazing, Quin. I am so excited about all that work that you're doing on all the different platforms. People can find out more by finding you where?
I'm at SisterLadyGirl on Facebook and on Instagram. That's where I hang out the most. Also, I invite any woman over 40 who would like support, who would like to find connections, to join us in our free Facebook group, which is called the Second Act Summit Society on Facebook. And just type that in, it pops up. You answer a couple of questions for me, and boof, you're in. So.
Wonderful. Well, I look forward to seeing you face to face April 2023. We're going to speak that on out there.
That's right.
And being a participant. But I thank you so much, Quin, for your transparency, again, for trusting this platform with all the great work that you're doing. We applaud you and celebrate you. We are, in fact, cheerleaders over here because the work that you're doing is phenomenal. Until next time, I wish you well. Pray for God's best and richest blessings upon all the work that you're doing, and know that you are needed and you are right where you need to be at the right time. Don't ever doubt that. Don't ever doubt that. Want to also thank each of you for giving us your time, your ear, your heart. Now we've given you something to place into your hands to take action, to move forward, to find the true you, or not even the true you, the next you, right? The you that you needs to be uncovered and presented to the world. It just might be your second act. So make sure you go and learn more and find out more and be a part of that community. Because if you figured it out, someone could use your help, and you could just be a friend or a cheerleader for someone as well. Thank you so much for joining us for another segment of Conversation in the Nick of Time. I'm your host, Nikki Roach. Make sure you visit nikkiroach.com to learn more about the show or how to be a guest. In the meantime, don't forget, you already possess everything you need to be successful. It's a matter of you defining it and tapping into it. Now it's your time to go and be great. Thank you.